Regardless, we don't have to worry about it today because we're online. So there you go. And today what we're looking at is what's the advice that you would give to a young adult? We're starting to work on a series coming up in February, mid-February, or actually later February, and starting to think through, yeah, what's the advice we'd give to young adults? And that's something, I mean, we always have to be cautious as pastors and making everything autobiographical. But I know I have adult children and teenage stepsons, and so I think a lot about that these days. Like, what would I offer to them? Because the world is so different, and a lot of my personal advice would be irrelevant to them because they're just living in a very different time. But some of the perspectives gained over 60 years of life, and same true for me, same true for you, is worthwhile to share. And we share it. We don't command it. We just say, hey, this is my experience of life. And we can go ahead and share that with other people. So what I've been thinking about with this, what advice, it gets back to this beautiful quote that I read yesterday. And this is from one of my very, very favorite Christian theologians, a guy by the name of Miroslav Volf. And he says, with forgiveness, when we work at forgiveness, I unbind a sinful deed from the person who committed it against me. And it's that idea of binding and unbinding. And there's places where Jesus says, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, whatever bound in heaven. That idea of this binding and that we can bind other people and we can bind ourselves. Yesterday, we took a look at how rumor mills can kind of feed that. We create stories about other people that will bind them. And the reality is at the same time, we're binding ourselves because nobody's free to be anything different than what our story is about them. And that story about them actually becomes a prison for us because we're never able to fully see them. And they're never able to, quote unquote, change because we've got them so pigeonholed in terms of how we believe they act. So what is the advice? And I was thinking a lot about that this morning out on a walk, and where would I start on it? And would start, but there's a positive and a negative aspect to this. And the positive aspect is where we have to say yes to clarity. We have, the idea that everything is relative is just not true. And lots of people believe that, and it's hard. It's hard sledding. Hard sledding if you believe everything is true. An example, and I used this in church a few weeks ago, but it was such a good thought experiment that I read about from a college professor. And he listed all the things we could love, and that included like homemade bread, the Philadelphia Flyers, your partner, all these different things that you love. And so he had watched this one professor who said, well, this clearly shows that all values are relative because we all love different things, which is very sophomoric reasoning. Because the fact is, right, that we actually want to be able to put those in a hierarchy. If you believe that your love of the Flyers should be more important than your love of your spouse, there's some room for spiritual growth there. And because it's just not true. Like what our human minds will give us is a list of things we love. What religion gives us is a way to prioritize those things, so we keep first things recognizably first. That's key. So that's kind of the yes is yes is saying like, look, we need to get really clear on love and the things that are important to love and the hierarchy of love. We need to get really clear about that. That actually really matters. And then we shift into a sacred no. So anytime we go through spiritual growth, there's both a sacred yes and then there's also a sacred no. Those things we have to get out of the way. And from a Swedenborgian perspective, from a Christian New Church perspective, the beautiful part is we get that stuff out of the way so that what is actually true about us and true about others can come to light, so that it can actually be there, because it's the belief that it is already there. And there's this inmost, already connected to heaven, and we want to allow that to go out there into the world. We have to get rid of the bad cholesterol to let the blood flow, in other words. So what is that? What gets in the way of clarity? What gets in the way of clarity is cynicism. And I cannot not stress strongly enough, if I was talking to young adults, cynicism is a killer. It absolutely is a killer, because you can look at everything in the world cynically, everything. And it just is such, excuse my French, like it's such a load of hooey. It's just not true. And yet the problem with cynicism is that a cynic, and this is really important, I remember reading this probably 20 years ago now, and it was so resonated with me. I think it's absolutely spot on. The problem with being a cynic is a cynic believes it's the only way to describe the world. That's it. And you look at the cynical people in your life and you look at cynicism in yourself, and it's pretty sure that the cynic is sure it has it figured out. And it's got all the kind of the backstory. Well, you know why they really do that. You know what really makes the world go round. You know what really matters. You know why they're really doing that. It's just like, And can you hear in that language? Binding, 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 binding. We're binding other people all up when we're deeply cynical about all their motives and all the whys and wherefores of what they do. And it doesn't mean that sometimes people do stuff for the wrong reasons. Hello. Yes, of course. We're always doing things for the wrong reasons all the time. And there's clearly times to be cynical and in extreme situations. But as a modus operandi, not a good deal. In other words, as a mode to operate in the world, doesn't work. Because it binds other people. And anytime we bind other people, we in the end are binding ourselves. That's how cynicism works. We bind other people in these negative stories. We get bound up in our own negative stories. It just doesn't work. I had a meeting a few days ago, and it was just, I just found myself like right away going into kind of a cynical thing. And it was just like, because where does the conversation go? Like, hello, where does it go? It doesn't go anywhere. And it certainly doesn't go towards clarity. It goes to sort of a faux clarity, F-A-U-X, a false clarity, a clarity that's not really accurate. We need to break those things. So friends, what to do today is when you see that cynic arrive, just like, give that cynic the boot. Just, you don't need to be cynical. It's not the way the world works. Are there things that are tough and sometimes people have backroom machinations and all that? Absolutely. Can we look at things with a little bit of a skeptical eye? Yep, it's clearly times for that. But please do not use cynicism as a way to see the world. It's not helpful. It will not help you. It will not help the world. It will not make you a more loving person. So that would be my starter advice to young people. Value clarity. Get rid of cynicism. Great starting point. All right. So with that, dear friends, what we're going to do is we're going to take a breath. We're going to listen to the prayer bell here. We're going to do a little meditational prayer, and then we'll say hi to our friends who have joined us on Facebook. So join me with a little breath and the prayer bell. Meditation from the Old Testament. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. The kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's give a little cheery hello to those who might have joined us on Facebook this morning. Again, I'm just thinking, what are the bets about this weekend? It seems to be all over the place with Philadelphia, as it often is. Either we're going to get the Snowmageddon or we're going to get nothing. I guess we shall see. All right, nothing on the end of page. Let me flip over to here. See if we got any comments over here. All right, just give me a second. Melissa, good morning to you. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Oh, here's another one. So not easy to remember. Yeah, it is. It's resentment. Was Rob Bell called it a chocolate covered turd. It looks great on the outside, not so good for you on the inside. And I thought that was a beautiful way to put it. So, friends, wishing you all the very best. God bless all of you. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you again tomorrow morning on